Instagram, welcome to the Trish Lynn Show. I will admit we are 2 minutes late because I got caught up in some singing and dancing, and yeah, not gonna be sorry for that because, well, when the energy is flowing, the energy is flowing. So we are going to get started here very soon. We are talking about self-care routines to decrease anxiety. This is a topic that is very, very close to my heart because I do have anxiety and suffer from anxiety. So Stacy is joining us today. I see she is on. I'm going to see if the invite doesn't work, then she can request to join and we will get started in this conversation. I know Instagram likes to take about 5 minutes to let everyone know that we are live, but we're going to run with it and just keep going. Yeah, the invite does not want to work. Stacy, if you can request to join. Okay, it's saying you're unable to join. I'm just going to log on my computer and see what's going on from here because I obviously can't see anything on my phone. I'm not sure why it's not letting you join. If you can you try to request to join? Gotta love tech issues. You guys, I have never, ever in my life had an issue with, there we go, with tech up until last week when Abigail and I had our tech issues. And now all of a sudden it's like lots and lots going on. There we go. I have never.
So I had to switch to my phone and versus the computer. So just try to move.
That's okay. That's okay. I know I had said I had invited you to join and it wouldn't let you on. It said it was blocked. So we're here now, which is all that matters. I was just saying I've never had tech issues during Mercury retrograde like I have been in the last week. It has been something else. I always used to laugh at people who are like, oh, tech issues, Mercury's in retrograde. I'm like, fucking tech issues. Mercury's in fucking retrograde. This has never happened to me. But here we are. We are working. I let everyone know the title of our show today is talking about self-care routines to decrease anxiety. And, you know, this topic is so close to me and my heart because I do suffer from anxiety. It has gotten a lot better over, I would say, the last 6 months in just being able to heal from my own toxic situation that I was in. But my anxiety was so bad, I would have panic attacks.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really excited to bring this conversation to the table. And I think the more that we get to talk about it, the more awareness we get to bring to this conversation and what anxiety looks like for many people, what anxiety can show up as for many people, and how we can overcome a lot of that.
Right. Yes. Self-care is so important. And when I work with my clients, I talk about, a lot of people will always say, I don't have time for self-care. And I say, you always have time for self-care. If you don't take care of yourself, then it ends up, biting you in the rear end at the end, so because a lot of times people think that self-care is something that we have to like plan to do. We have to go, maybe plan to go get a manicure, go and get a pedicure, go get our hair done, go tanning, go get a massage. Those are all great self-care techniques to do maybe once a month, but daily self-care is something that we can take a look at, like, what brings you joy, what puts a smile on your face, and you attempt to do that at least 5 minutes a day. As I was logging on, I heard something about dancing, you saying something about dancing.
That's why we were a couple minutes late logging in, because I had the music going. It played one good song, and I'm like, okay. I actually recorded a little bit of it to share after, because energy is energy, right? And
Right.
for me, I feel like a different energy right now just from getting into the energy of the music, and I'm dancing in my chair, but hey, I'm still moving and energy is flowing. And yeah, I looked and I was like, oh shit, I'm late. Oh well, because I'm in such a good mood.
Right. And dancing is a great self-care method. So yeah, turning on the music and just allowing yourself to dance. There's so many nights that I'm cooking dinner and I turn on my music and yeah, I'm dancing in the kitchen. Self-care, yeah, it does move that energy, and it puts a smile to our face. Going outside and just being in nature for a few minutes. So many of us are working at our desks, and if we work from home, we tend to stay more put. We don't take our natural lunch breaks because no one's telling us that we have to. When I worked in the corporate world, no one told me I had to take a lunch break. So a lot of times I would just work right through lunch. And that's just not good for our own mental health and our physical, because that's when burnout and overwhelmed kicks in. And so even taking a 5-minute break in the middle of the day to maybe go outside and go barefoot, because getting yourself grounded, and allowing yourself that moment to listen to the birds or listen to whatever you can hear in your area, because becoming more using mindfulness is a great technique too, for panic attacks.
Yes.
Because if we can get ourselves in that moment, then we can really start to identify that at that moment we are okay.
That's like, for me, breath work became very, very important to get out of my head and into my body. Dancing does the same thing. Obviously, it gets you out of your head and into your body. And that's what we need to do. We have to get out of our thoughts that are creating the anxiety and into what is actually happening and going on within our body to signal to our nervous system, look, we are safe. Obviously, my panic attacks are side effects from my toxic relationship. So being able to get into my body and say, look, we are safe. We are not in any harm. Like, I am in my own home, my safe space. Like, my home has become my safe space for me.
Right.
And I'm very protective of my safe space, but I know that nothing is going to happen to me here. And being able to continually remind myself of that, even now I'll have moments and it's just coming back to what I know.
Right.
And
yeah. So self-care, so when I work with my clients in my anxiety program, I have them do a self-care assessment to see the areas of their lives that are lacking self-care. And then we try to implement a plan that can get some more of those areas taken care of. And again, I tell them, even if we add 5 minutes a day, 5 minutes a day is better than nothing. And I, will include having them look at ways to get grounded, mindfulness, breath work. I tell them just kind of start their day with 3 things that they are grateful for.
Yes.
And then we bookend it with 3 things that we've accomplished, big or small. because then it starts to look at, the joyful things that happened in our day. And those things are so important for self-care because it helps, decrease those, getting out of that thought
Yeah.
process, which is what increases our anxiety.
Yeah, even so, like our mind is everything. Our mind controls our behaviors, how we show up in the world, how we perceive things, and it's being able to, start with the gratitude every day. It's the same thing. You wake up, open my eyes, look at the things that I am grateful for. Even when I'm having those moments, I will stop and I'll look at everything that I have accomplished that a year ago, I didn't think I would be where I am right now. So setting the tone for the day of what is possible and not getting caught up in the pieces that cause the anxiety is such a huge piece, because you can dwell on all of the different things. And what you choose to focus on is what's going to expand. So if I focus on the pieces that bring me anxiety, I'm going to have more of that in my life, and that's not what I want. So when you can focus on what you're grateful for and the joy in your life, you get to bring more of that into your life.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, the breath work is a major, major piece for me. In the beginning, I would literally just stop, 3 times a day and focus on my breathing, focus on box breathing, to come back into my body and signal that I am the one in control and I am okay. Nothing is harming me. I am safe.
Right. Yeah. And breath work can be used for self-care as well. Yeah, those are great techniques. And that's why when someone says, I just don't have the time to take care of myself, and I will challenge them on that, because you take 1 minute to do some deep breathing or box breathing or some other form of breath work that resonates with you, and you're practicing self-care.
Yeah. Well, and it's as simple as, maybe running a bath and putting meditation music on. Or,
right.
Yesterday for me, my self-care was laying on the couch watching TV. I knew I needed that day of rest. So for me, that is what I needed. And that is what I gave myself without feeling guilty for all of the other things that had to be done, like my laundry that's still in the washing machine. And I just remembered in this moment. But it's taking the pieces that we need and not allowing ourselves to feel shame or guilt towards it.
Right. It's what brings you joy for that day. And if resting brings you joy, then that is okay. Yeah. And you're right. And it's more of that thought process of letting go of that guilt, of that I took the day to rest, and versus taking care of the 10,000 things on my to-do list.
Yeah.
And it's recognizing, again, it's the thoughts that is making you think that 10,000 things on your list had to be done.
Yes.
Versus the reality of it having to be done.
Well, and not only those 10,000 things that have to get done, then you feel overwhelmed and you can feel bogged down or burdened by it, which starts to create anxiety on its own, because you're like, oh, I have, society says we have to do this, and this in order to be successful or see the things that we want to see, which just causes more and more of a cycle that we continuously get caught up in. So recognizing, I'd love to share, if you could share some signs, and I'll share some of my experience and things that I have witnessed and recognized, but signs of anxiety.
Yeah, so it shows up in people so differently. I never even identified myself as an anxious person. But it was about 15 years ago when I would come home from work, and I had a very, very stressful position outside of my work or outside of the home. And then I always put additional pressure on myself, because for some reason I thought that saying yes to everything would make me the better mom, the better wife, the better, employee. So I never said no. And I was always doing more than I should or had time for. And so my anxiety really was, I was irritable. So I would yell, like someone would ask me what was for dinner, and I'd be like, ah! I don't know, pick something and cook. Why am I always the one that's doing things? So irritability was mine. Um, and it wasn't until I started doing some of my own reflection. So my husband's like, why are you always angry? I'm like, I'm not angry. And then
Overstimulated.
yeah,
Yeah.
I started doing some more of the research because I'm a counselor by trade. And I started going back through some of my trainings and I was like, oh, I'm really like this high achieving woman that has no boundaries. Yeah. And I am just, my nervous system is dysregulated. And so I started doing the work. And so irritability can be a sign of anxiety. Your thoughts that don't ever stop. You feel like your brain can't be shut off.
Yeah.
Not being able to focus during the day, you become more forgetful because most likely your thoughts are everywhere.
Mhm.
Um, it can be not emotionally connecting to your partner or even your loved ones, closest friends, and maybe children. It can show up in physical signs, headaches, tons, muscle tension. Um, a common one that I hear about is eye twitching, you know,
Oh.
um, so I mean, it can show up in a lot of different
Mhm.
ways, for people. And sometimes when we're so busy and doing things, we don't say that it's anxiety,
Mhm. I the overthinking is what, like, my mind, when I am anxious, my mind does not shut off and I can't sleep. And then I've noticed I have a hard time breathing
Mm.
and actually catching my breath. And then that is a telltale sign for me that I'm close to a panic attack as well, which is not fun.
Right. Right. Yeah. Panic attacks are not fun. But it's good that you are able to start recognizing that your breathing is changing.
Yes.
So becoming more self-aware of our own body is a huge thing because then we can start to incorporate, because that's probably when you are like, okay, I need to do a breath work session, or, you recognize where your energy is and you make those adjustments, and so, yeah. And for me, once I started realizing that, yeah, my boundaries changed, I started saying no and not feeling guilty about it. And mine was huge headaches and muscle tension in my neck. I went to a physical therapy for like 7 weeks because I thought it was a muscle strain. And he's like,
It's
yeah,
anxiety.
it's more of like you are carrying all of your stress and burnout in your body, and you need to manage those things, and your neck will probably get better. And I probably haven't taken over the counter medications in probably a year.
Amazing.
Once I learned how to manage my stress a little bit more differently.
Yeah. I love that. It's learning how to recognize it in yourself. I had a friend who was telling me all of these symptoms, and I'm like, dude, that's anxiety. So sure enough, he started looking it up, and that's exactly what it was. And it's being able to recognize, what you're experiencing isn't normal. It isn't from the day-to-day hustle that we think we have to put ourselves through.
Right.
Even being overstimulated is from the constant, yeah, we're used to saying yes and having zero boundaries. I think especially as moms, we put ourselves on the back burner, we put ourselves last, and we move those boundaries a lot to
Right.
make everyone else happy, that we forget we have to still do the us work and make sure we're good, or we're not showing up as the person, as the mom we want to be.
Right. 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 Yeah. Now that I have, take care of myself, I incorporate self-care techniques into my daily routine. Yeah, I'm more present to my kids. I'm not that irritable person so that when they ask me what's for dinner, I don't argue, I don't fight about what is happening. And yeah, it's a huge thing to add self-care.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm the same. I haven't had to take any over the counter well, I had anxiety medication that my doctor had prescribed me, and I haven't had to touch that in over a year. It is literally reserved now for those panic attacks if I can't bring myself back.
Uh-huh.
But the breathing and meditation has been big for me, and just again music and incorporating all of that in. And then I actually, if I'm having one of those moments, CBD helps me calm myself,
Uh-huh.
which is something that's not really talked about widely right now, here anyways. I don't know if it is there where you are, but
Uh, yeah, it's becoming more talked about, you know. But part of what I teach too is the cognitive restructuring. It's changing those thoughts because, like you said earlier, it's your thoughts that kind of have, you know, that will increase your anxiety that then, you know, can produce a panic attack. And so, really looking at, you know, changing those thoughts, you know, because like I had the thought, I have no idea where it came from, where, you know, yeah, saying yes to everything would make me a better, you know, mom, better person. And so I had this perception that I needed to do everything to be considered all these, you know, good titles. And I've changed that thought, you know, and I don't feel guilty when, yeah, I take a day of rest and don't do the laundry or vacuum or whatever I needed to say that I needed to do,
yeah,
and recognizing that it's okay. At the end of the day, no one is judging me for not doing my laundry because no one else probably knows except for me.
well, now everyone who watches the show
No,
knows that I've got to
right,
go wash the load I have in the wash. But, it happens. When we need that time, we need that time. And it's being able to take it from a subconscious level, because a lot of us are on, what's the word I'm looking for? Autopilot every day, and we don't even recognize it. So the anxiety can creep in and we don't consciously recognize it because our subconscious is running the show.
right,
And the biggest step is, even if you get to those panic attacks, it's being able to go back and look at what caused this and looking at the thoughts that caused it, so that you can then say, on a conscious level, this wasn't harming me, and now recognize it the next time it comes up.
right, right. Yeah,
So that's my process anyways, and recognizing patterns, so that's how I've been able to heal a lot of the pieces that I've experienced. But being able to share that, with the world and with the women who come to me and work with me, because when you've been in that toxic relationship, there's a lot that comes up that subconsciously or consciously you don't even recognizing is coming up for you, right?
right,
So
right, right. Yeah. So adding self-care routines can be as easily as, like I said, starting your day with a gratitude check, you know, taking a few minutes out of the day to find joy. You know, if you can incorporate it at least, you know, morning, afternoon, and evening, that's even better. You know, but I know some people will say that's even too much. So I always say start with at least 5 minutes a day, and then we can always add more, you
even if
know.
you can set a reminder on your phone 3 times a day to just pause and reflect and say one thing that you've, good, that has gotten you to that point in the day.
Right,
And it just builds, right? It's a continuous building of all of the positive things.
right. And some people, again, like you said, like when I cook dinner, I put on music. You know, that's part of my self-care. You know, I know that's bringing joy to me, and it's really nothing that I had to do differently, you know, in my day. You know,
Yeah.
it's being incorporated into something that I'm already doing.
Yeah.
And so, and then I also, you know, adding other things throughout the day, you know, like taking just a step, you know, turning off the computer, or, you know, turning off all the notifications for a few minutes and doing some deep breathing,
Yeah.
doing a meditation, or like I said, the mindfulness, I always incorporate senses because the senses is really easy for us to do into a mindfulness, you know, in regards to like listening to what you can hear, you know, for that moment, what can you smell, what can you see, and that kind of gets you grounded and gives you a few minutes away from the hustle of the day.
Yeah. I will go if I'm feeling it really worked up. I will go stand outside in the backyard, barefoot in the grass, and just stand with my feet planted, my palms open, and just breathe in and out for as many breaths as I need to until I feel my body calm down, because it's really connecting back to the earth and in that grounding energy.
Right. Right. It's a great
Yeah.
it's a great technique to, yeah, help us get into that moment and recognize what's going on that we need to take care of.
Yeah. No, it's perfect. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience and anyone watching?
No, I don't think so. Not on self-care.
Okay. I've loved this episode. For anyone who is jumping on, catching the replay, or for anyone who's on, keep giving us the hearts, because it does boost this in the algorithm. If you do jump on and you want to join in the conversation, leave us comments. I will personally be replying to them. I'm loving continuing these conversations and the conversations that I'm having with the show. I will drop Stacey's information in the caption so that you can connect with her if any of this episode resonates with you and you want to learn more about the process she takes her clients through with anxiety. Her information is going to be there for you. Stacey, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
And yeah, I will see you guys on Wednesday. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.